The case contained a collection of rocks. They were all shapes and colors, but they were still rocks. Above them, a sign read, L'Âge Paléolithique. The case contained some fragments of pottery. They looked to me like broken flower pots. Above them, a sign read, L'Âge Paléolithique. The case contained 2 rows of silver coins. Each coin on the lower row showed a portrait of a guy with a huge nose. I looked down at a collection of tools with wooden handles and tarnished metal blades. There were knives, chisels, and spikes fanned out in a semicircle. I guess there's always been a need for home improvement. It was a tapestry of a lady, a lion, and a unicorn. If I'd had more time, I could have stared at it all day. The totem pole looked distinctly out of place in the setting of the museum. It was an ancient Egyptian sarcophagus with a beautifully painted effigy of its owner on the lid. In the case was a spindly tripod, blackened with age and pitted with rust. It was identical to the tripod pictured on the manuscript. A notice identified it as 15th century from Western Ireland. It had been found in Lochmarne at the site of a Knights Templar preceptory. Ireland!
What's that?
This tripod was found in Ireland.
I will have to ask you to keep your voice down.
I'm sorry, I was excited. The attendant had an air of self-importance and the kind of steely eyes that never seemed to blink. Pardon me?
Oui, monsieur?
Are you Lochmarne?
Oh, no. Fancy you mistaking me for him. No, I am the deputy custodian.
But Lochmarne does work here.
Work? I wouldn't go so far as to call it that. He studies here most days, but as you can see for yourself, not today.
Can you give me any further information about the tripod?
Certainly, monsieur. It's infamous. That tripod, that belonged to John Dee.
What's the importance of John Dee's tripod?
Dee was the most famous escapologist of the 16th century, the Houdini of his time.
Don't you mean alchemist? Escapologists use ropes, chains, and handcuffs, not tripods.
Well, whatever he was, that is the tripod he used in his experiments.
What kind of experiments did John Dee perform with his tripod?
Oh, the usual. Didn't you study chemistry at school?
Yeah, but we skipped over thaumatology. Can I take a closer look at the tripod?
What? Get it out of the case? Ah, no! That tripod is protected by a sophisticated surveillance system.
How sophisticated?
A painfully loud alarm bell.
How is the alarm bell triggered?
By the slightest pressure on or movement of any part of the case wherein that tripod is situated.
It strikes me that to call your alarm system sophisticated is, well, stretching the truth a little.
It has never failed yet. The sophistication is in its simplicity.
Do you know anything about the Knights of the Temple?
No, sir. Not a sausage.
The sign on the tripod says it was found at a Templar preceptory.
It does?
Yeah. It doesn't mention John Dee at all.
Most remiss.
You don't know anything about the tripod, do you?
No, I don't. I never had much of a start in life, you see. I owe what little education I gained to my uncle. He was an optician, but he also doubled as the village school teacher. He taught me the alphabet. Well, 19 letters of it. The bottom row of the chart was too small even for him to read, so he left them out.
Why don't you start over and enroll for adult education?
You know, I never thought of that. Do you think if I studied hard and did all my homework, I could be a professor of history?
At your age? Dream on. Do you know anything about medieval manuscripts?
Not me, monsieur. I am no scholar, though people often mistake me for one. It is the uniform, I guess. They see the clothes. They are impressed.
And they ask you to park their cars?
They ask me to park the... No, no, no. They assume I am an authority on the exhibits in my care.
Whereas you know next to nothing about history.
Of course not. All I am saying is, I am no scholar. Not like Monsieur Lobineau.
What can you tell me about the collection of coins?
A rare example of silver coinage from the reign of Philippe le Bel. That little old lay buried for centuries in a field on the outskirts of Paris. They're unique. Nothing like them has been found anywhere else in Europe.
Who was Philippe le Bel?
You don't know? Philippe IV, the King of France.
Wasn't he the guy who wiped out the Knights Templar?
I have no idea, monsieur. All I know is he was King of France. I don't even know why he was called Philippe le Bel.
What can you tell me about the collection of pottery?
Those are remains of pots used by the original inhabitants of Paris. The Paris pot people.
When did they move out?
15,000 years ago, monsieur. Vanished in the mists of time. Didn't even have time to pack up their pots.
I thought the original inhabitants of Paris were a tribe known as the Parisi.
That is right, monsieur. Renowned for their pots. You see, in those days, people didn't have much in the way of possessions. A few flints, some animal skins, maybe the odd bone or two. Naturally, when the Parisi came along with their pots, why, everybody wanted one.
I guess they must have caused a kind of consumer frenzy.
Ah oui, they cornered the market, cleaned up.
You don't know the first thing about those pots, do you?
No, monsieur.
Thanks for your help. The tripod was definitely the one on the manuscript. The Templar connection confirmed it. I was tempted to go to Ireland to check it out. Several hours later, I arrived in Ireland, the Emerald Isle. I'd been lucky to get a bus from Dublin to the tiny village of Lochmarne. On the way out, the driver told me there was only one service a day. The menu was limited. It read, "No food today." I didn't care. I'd lost my appetite somewhere over the Irish Sea. It was a featureless plastic box firmly attached to the wall of the building. It was a trap door in the sidewalk. The drain was covered with an iron grating, through which I could hear the rush and surge of running water. The lad was doing his best to express his adolescent aggression. His effort was somewhat diminished by the fringe of milk on his lightly feathered upper lip. Hi there.
What?
What's your name, kid?
Who are you calling kid? Who the hell are you?
I'm George Stobart, and I'm with the good guys.
You're a head case, mister. A few sandwiches short of a picnic.
Cut the crap and tell me your name.
Liam McGuire.
What are you doing hanging around the bar, McGuire?
I'm on the run from me dad.
Why? Did you do something bad?
I ain't done nothing, boss.
You can tell me, kid. Is it your dad?
Oh, sir. He drinks every last penny down his evil throat. And there's me poor old mother, bedridden and dying of presumption. I tried to buy her medicine. Chopped firewood for Father Mahoney till me fingers bled. The old skinflint cheated me too. But I took the pennies he gave me back home. Look, Ma, says I, see what your darling son has earned with his own sweat and blood. When suddenly, me dad appears and grabs the loot. I'm off to Dublin, heavy drinking, says he. Watch out till I get back. That's why I runned away.
Something in the grin on his face told me he wasn't being strictly truthful. Compared to him, Huckleberry Finn was a candidate for Altar Boy of the Year. What can you tell me about the castle, McGuire?
What do you want to know?
Well, can I get inside?
No, it's locked up.
Does anyone live there?
No, only...
What?
Oh, nothing.
You know something about the castle you're not telling me, don't you?
No.
What is it you're covering up? Is it something you're scared of?
I ain't scared of nothing.
I'll give you one last chance to tell me about the castle.
Oh, yeah? And what if I don't?
Then I'm taking you back to school.
Oh. There's a ghost. It's called the Phantom of Lochmarne.
You're not telling me you believe in ghosts, are you?
Mister, I seen it with me very own eyes. Last Tuesday night, I went up to see what that dig was about. I just reached the top of the wall when I hears this awful noise.
What sort of noise?
A horrible snuffling and snorting, like O'Brien's pig, only worst. It was coming from inside the castle.
Did you find out what was making the noise in the castle?
No fear. I just sat there on the wall like Humpty Dumpty. The moon was cracked and greasy like an old dinner plate. The yard was full of shadows that could have been hiding anything. I would have gone home, but me legs had lost their stuffing.
Did you get to see the ghost?
Indeed I did. And a fearsome sight it is too. I sat on my arse, waited while the moon went down. Then out it comes from the shadows, all grey and tattered and hunched over like an old bent willow. Then I hears this spluttering and splashing and horrible laughter in the dark. I was so scared. Why, I fell off the bloody wall.
I'm sure there's a rational explanation for what you saw at the castle.
There is. The bloody place is haunted.
Have you seen a guy dressed as a clown?
Here in Lochmarne, they all dress like clowns.
The man I'm looking for is a dangerous psychotic.
Jesus. It's just like that film I saw. There's this clown, see, and he's after this kid who saw him kill a guy. He tries to warn the sheriff, only no one believes him. Then, while he's in the tub, the clown cuts him up with a chainsaw.
My God, that doesn't sound suitable for a kid like you.
Who are you calling a kid? I'm 25.
Yeah, right. You're not a day over 14.
Oh no, it's 25 that I am. Married with a car and 3 kids. 10 kids if you count the wives.
See you later, kid.
Okay, mister.